Hi, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to tune in with us tonight. Tonight, we have with us Andy Burns. How are you tonight? This is episode 19, and we're getting the hang of it. I think. Do you think, Wendy? I think you are. Wendy,
That seemed very professional. It seems like you've got the hang of it. Yeah, sure.
we think, we think. So Wendy and I were really blessed. The Game Changers is more than a show; it became a family for us. Thank you, Evan, Iggy, and JC, and the TSA crew for giving us the platform to connect with wonderful individuals through the community. We're learning so much about the personalities of each and everyone we host every single week. They are taking us to their home and sharing with us their personal experiences with fantasy football and life itself. I want to take this opportunity tonight to say congratulations to all the nominees in the Fantasy Sports Writers Association, especially one a friend of the show, Doug Orr, and he is nominated for two finalist lists of Football Article of the Year and Football Writer of the Year. A well-deserved nomination. Good job, babe.
Way to go, babe.
Way to go, babe. Andy.
Should I call Doug babe? Good.
You
job,
can.
babe.
You'll be fine with it.
We all call him babe.
Good work, babe.
Andy, we've never met before. So when Wendy sent me your bio, I was in awe, honestly. You've got so much history to share, and I cannot wait to listen. You've been a fantasy analyst at Yahoo since 2007. You wrote fantasy and non-fantasy content for ESPN, two-time Tout Wars winner, King Classic winner, and more. Hi, Andy, and welcome to the Game Changers tonight. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. It is very good to be here. I have enjoyed every moment that I have spent with Wendy. It hasn't been a lot, but we've hung out on a couple of occasions, and it's been delightful. Wendy and I have very much a game respects game kind of relationship because we're just two of the best rafflers to ever do it. Which we proved together at the live Scott Fish Bowl. So it is a pleasure to be with you guys. I like the mission of this show. I like everything about it. I like the hosts.
Thanks, Andy. I have to start off with a story, though. I'm telling you, when I asked Andy for the bio, I was reading it. My mind was blown. Okay, I saw that you've written 3 young adult novels, and one of them was made into a movie. How did I not know this? Does anyone know this, Andy?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a little thing that I feel like a handful of folks in the fantasy industry know. First of all, it the movie is Sex Drive, right? Which you'll occasionally see on Comedy Central late at night. Super raunchy, very much a product of its times. It is a film for which I'm confident I should be canceled. I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. I don't think they can tie me to some of the raunchier scenes in the film. So let's just hope I stay uncanceled for at least a little while longer. I'd like to make it a few more years at Yahoo. But anyway, yeah, I did years ago. So like pre-Yahoo, before I was writing fantasy full time, I was writing for a section of ESPN's website. I was writing for Page 2 and Page 3. These were like big feature sections in their website for a little while. And somebody had emailed me out of the blue, and this was at a point in my career where I was freelancing, and I basically said yes to almost everything that anybody asked me. And somebody was like, "Hey, would you be interested in writing some samples of a young adult novel on spec?" And I was like, "Well, this is probably a scam, but sure. Anybody who's willing to pay me for anything, I'll do it." So I took a shot at that, and it turned into like a little book deal. And they'd basically, I worked with a company that was doing all the work behind the scenes to get the movie sold, so I didn't have to do any of that. But it was really fun. It was a very fun experience, if not necessarily an Oscar-winning film.
Oh, wait, there's more. Okay,
oh, no.
And there's more coming from me, right? Okay. So I messaged you, and I'm like, oh my God. So I ran over I got on IMDb. I'm like, he's telling me the truth. Your name came up under this movie. I'm like, Andy, it's
So you were
true.
initially like, oh, great, this is another Andy Behrens
I thought you were
lie.
messing with me because, come on, that would very well be a possibility. Okay. So I was like, man, he really is. And so I'm like, Andy, it's true. And so at this point, I'm laughing in my kitchen. I'm cracking up, and my kid walks by, and she's like, what is so funny? What is wrong with you? And I'm like, well, I've telling her about Andy Behrens with this movie, and she's like, Mom, I've seen that movie. And
I'm
like,
so sorry. I'm
I
so
go,
sorry.
what? I go, are you kidding me? I'm like, so guess what, Andy? I own this movie.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
Oh my
This movie was in my DVD collection, Andy. Okay. So I revisited this movie last night. Okay.
Oh no. Oh no.
So and there's really some good parts in this movie, okay? I was really laughing. Like, I'm almost ashamed. I hope that no one's really watching this show tonight because I was kind of ashamed of this, okay? But there were some stars in this movie. Seth Green is the Amish guy. Oh my God, he was so good. He was Fallout Boy played. Fallout Boy played at the Amish Rumspringa.
They did. So
that was Pete
Seth
Wentz.
Green is in there. Clark Duke is in there. It's actually it's a wild cast. It was a really fun cast.
Nuts. I mean, this is like, first of all, I have so many questions. Okay, are you Ian from the movie? Is this movie about you?
It is. I mean, I didn't do any of those things, other than like the original setting. The original setting of the film, like where he's working, was a place that I had, like, it's based at like Fox Valley Mall in the western suburbs of Chicago.
Ask what mall? Okay.
Yeah, and I did a lot of hard time there, so that's that's kind of where it starts out. That is where it's based, but then everything from there. It was one of those movies that is just very locked in amber in a very specific moment in time, right? Like it relies heavily on like technology and modes of communication that people just no longer use or are already outmoded. But like whatever for its day in that moment, it was it was a blast. It was a total blast to be a part of.
I was so impressed. But did you get to go to the like movie premiere? Was it like a red carpet event or something?
It was actually. It was man, I forget the movies that debuted the same week that it did. So like it was facing some stiff competition. I think I don't know, it might have come in like third, fifth in the box office or something like that. It did fine, and it's done fine like since then. But there was an amazing premiere party for it, and the funny thing was, it was Summit Entertainment was the company behind it, and they were also connected to Twilight, and Twilight was like a couple months away from coming out. So like Edward, whoever that big star actor is who plays Edward in Twilight, was at the premiere. Like
Robert Pattinson.
They just dumped him out on the red carpet, and he walked in, and so like we got like a moment with him. It was crazy. Like the people that were there were crazy. The party was crazy. It was that was really gratifying too, because I had been at that point, I'd left a really solid, respectable middle management job some years earlier, and I dove into like something that I was really passionate about doing, which was just freelance writing and getting a sports writing career launched. And so that was like a nice moment that I could take my wife to, and it was like, see, like it's not okay. Maybe I'm not making the same money, but there are some fun perks that go along with this super weird job, right?
That's amazing.
Awesome. Hey, Sally said she wants to see the movie, so it's available. No. This is the unrated and cream filled.
No, that's gonna be a hard no. We're not showing that one. We're not showing that one.
I read the story. I didn't watch it yet.
We're not showing that one to grown-ups either. We're not, like, the unrated one has to go away. We're gonna burn that one. That's not for viewing anywhere in any room. No, it's never appropriate. I will say somebody wrote in the chat on this particular show that there should be a showing at the expo.
I'll bring it.
I think I'm out on the expo this year, if that's even a possibility. Oh my God.
I do. Oh my God. Andy, as a writer, if you could live in any period in history, which could would you choose and why?
I like, I don't know. I like where I am. It's fine. What did I just read? We were just on vacation and I actually reread Bram Stoker's Dracula, which was really fun and it is very of its moment. But man, it would have been a chore to be a writer in like the 19th century because you had to put really pretty words in people's mouths, and I feel like you don't have to do that. Like everybody is saying super flowery, beautiful things. Even even the idiots are saying really smart stuff. So like I don't want any part of that. It's much easier to write contemporary dialogue. I feel like
Thank you.
it's as a fiction writer, you really just want to put yourself into literally any era before cell phones because like modern technology solves so many of the problems that were like essential hinge points in TV drama when I was a kid and every film when I was a kid, right? Like every time I watch a movie now that is like from the 60s, from the 70s, you're just like, oh man, a phone would fix all of this. It is really hard to find drama in modern fiction. So it would, this is not the moment to do it, but at almost any other point in history, I think you're good.
That's
That's
nice.
awesome. Well, okay, so today was a pretty big day over at that SFSWA, Mr. President. So, how did you get elected? Is this like an elected position? You only get to be in it so long. How does that work?
It should be an elected position. And I hopefully whenever I give up I basically run it like a tyrant. That's how my reign has gone. Like we don't have a good mechanism for like actually getting the entire FSWA to membership to vote. And really the organization, just to give people a sort of primer on exactly what it is, the organization exists basically so that we can have an awards process and recognize some of the incredible content that is being produced by fantasy writers, Doug included, right? Like this is either our 20th or our 21st award season. It is the 20th for which I have records. I have been told that there was an even earlier award season, but nobody can tell me who won, and nobody has any record of the event. So as far as I know, this is our 20th award season. And at the time that the FSWA was founded, like fantasy writing and content creation was really just looking for a little bit of respectability, right? Because like one of the nice things when you're as old as I am and you've been in this business as long as I have, it's really gratifying that fantasy has sort of now achieved a place where people respect the analysis and it gets woven in. You look at what Matthew Berry is doing on Sunday Night Football, right? It gets woven right into mainstream NFL content. That's really gratifying. It was not the case 20 years ago, right? It was not the case 15 years ago. It was very much a niche thing. People didn't take the content seriously. I think now, like my own employer at Yahoo, they fully recognize that the analysis that's being created on the fantasy side is every bit as good as some of the analysis that has been created on the straight up NFL side, the MLB side. But when we were founded, we really just wanted to recognize all this great content that was out there. And I think we've done a really good job of that over the years. And now we have like 23 separate awards. We've sort of branched out into the multimedia categories, and it's a big, clunky, difficult process, but it is worth doing. We make it pretty painful because like when writers submit their work, we ask them to strike their own name, their site affiliation, all that stuff from it, and plug it into this really messy tool where our judges go in and then they read
So
it
you
without.
don't know who it is.
Yeah, and then they get assigned like a candidate number, so like their name's not associated with it at all, and that.
That's
Not
nice.
that our judges are really good, and our judges wouldn't, obviously our judges, I don't think would be swayed by big names, big platforms, anything like that. But people can rest assured that even though the process is difficult, the result of that is that they are getting read right alongside, some of the biggest names in the industry, right? So like, I can't tell you exactly who and how many people were nominated in like the Football Writer of the Year category, but it was over 100 people. And we're talking about folks from the biggest sites in fantasy, right? So, like if you're a finalist there, you're like, it's really incredible work. And we can't, at this point, there's so much great content out there. We can't recognize everybody who's producing incredible stuff, but we get to a pretty good slice of it. And so I'm pretty happy with the awards process. I also just like this. I like this day generally when we announce the finalists, and it's just like my feed is full of people congratulating one another on stuff. And it was
great today. It was really great today to see all of our friends and, people that we work with to have them nominated. How does that? So who nominates them? Do you have to be a member of the FSWA to nominate someone?
Yeah. The other thing about FSWA is it's really like, I'm not exactly coming to you from the FSWA yacht, right? We're not like some deep pocketed organization. There's like a really small membership fee when you join the organization. It's like $39, and then you never pay anything else for anything ever again, right? There's not like a fee associated with nominating with submitting anything for the awards process ever. We're not asking you for money year after year after year. The downside to that is that we can't really afford to do much, right? Like we can't have big conventions. We can't do that sort of thing. It would be great if we could get the organization there. And I hope that we're able to build out some things on the website in the coming year that at least gives members more tools and more of a reason to join the association. But, you join it once, it's very little money, and then you can participate in this awards process that I think does a really, really good job of recognizing many of the best writers in the industry.
There was a lot. I didn't realize there were so many different categories because I was looking at all the nominations today, and I recognized a lot of names. Some of the things not so much because I'm not into baseball and stuff, but I guess I'm going to be. I didn't know that was going to work out that way, but I think I'm going to try baseball stuff too, Andy.
Good.
But what I did notice was there were a lot more women that were nominated, and I was really, really happy because there are some rock stars out there that really deserve that recognition, and to see that people are recognizing them really made me super proud today. A lot of my friends.
Yeah, just seeing nominations come in, and then one of the nice things from my perspective about just like tweeting the finalists every year is every year there's so many names I don't recognize. You can only meet so many people. Like in Canton, not everybody goes, and I find it comforting in that, like, I know our process is good because our process every year is showing me a bunch of names that like I don't know. You're able to then, one of the nice things about publishing all the finalists is that people who aren't familiar with the names can look them up and read them. Right. Yep. And just going through like a handful of sports that I play and finding a bunch of writers that I was previously unaware of, it's really nice. I think it's a good platform for them. This all sort of culminates in an award show that we do on Sirius XM. It'll probably be in the final week of February. Where we're just going to call people live and announce winners live, and we recognize our newest Hall of Famers too. So it's a
that was my next question. So have the Hall of Famers already been determined for this year, or is it going to be announced later?
No, we've announced it. It is and it was really a pleasure because we Dr. A. Who Steve Alexander. I'm not sure if how familiar you are with like fantasy hoops. But this is the first person that we've inducted into the Hall of Fame that was like strictly fantasy hoops, right? Which is very meaningful for me because fantasy hoops is a hardcore audience. We still don't have somebody who's been just like straight up fantasy hockey. There are a number of sports that are not represented in our Hall of Fame, and it's a big whiff. But having Steve in there is really great. I think it's real progress because we've, the initial Hall of Fame classes were just all like football legendary ground floor day one, fantasy writers. And it was important that we get all those guys in, but that's basically all baseball and football. So we're finally starting to get in people from some of the other sports that have actually been around as long as baseball has, right? And been played as long as baseball has. And so it was great to see Steve get some recognition. Eno Saris is the other member of this Hall of Fame class. And you'd be hard pressed to find anybody in the fantasy industry who has been more helpful to other content creators, especially in the baseball world, than Eno has. He'll go on anybody's podcast. He'll make an introduction for anybody. Super friendly. So we just have a couple of people that we're inducting this year that are like in the truest spirit of what the Hall of Fame should be. It's folks who have not only created incredible content over the years, but they've been super helpful to their peers.
We just saw Greg. I don't know if you saw him popping in, and he is a Hall of Famer too. He was saying hi to everyone. So, by the way, Greg, he put us together, Wendi and I, for the show. So he is really helpful, and he is great for the
all
community
his fault. Way to go.
Yeah,
Way to go,
Greg, also a legend, also a Hall of Famer. And
Yes.
I believe Greg was a recipient of one of the very first FSWA awards. I think like the first year for which we have any records of award winners, I believe Greg was one of them.
All right.
Yes. So Greg was asking a question. JC, if you can pop it in back, please, for Andy to see. So he was asking if you're gonna put on YouTube. Some people don't have serious heavy accent.
Man, this is a really good question, and I will actually see if I can. I will see if I can create like a record of the show that we can then. We might not do it like in real time because I want to be sensitive to Sirius. But I'll see if we can create some sort of copy of the show and for replay value. That would be a great idea.
Gemma, she's got a great question.
Okay, so this is a really good question, and it gets into some thornier things because we're like, there's parts of the world where you can't see our website right now. And to be like totally honest with you, I'm not the person to fix that. Like, I'm not the webmaster behind this thing, and we are actually fully redeveloping the website right now. So like I'm not gonna be doing a whole lot to fswa.org for the next couple months because it's going to get blown up and there's going to be a new site and hopefully a new nomination tool and all that. So like when that's in place, it's I would hope that we're not going to have any of these issues with like accessing the site from other countries. And I absolutely know that is an issue right now.
Thank you, Gemma. Thank you, Andy. Andy, what's your biggest fear and how do you work to overcome that fear?
Wendi is my biggest fear, and I overcome it by I'm confronting it right now. Like that's how we deal with that.
Oh no!
I
thought we were friends. I thought we were friends, Andy.
I can't believe you just answered that.
I mean that's right. I mean you want honesty, right?
It's gonna be like
he
that.
loves me. He can tell everybody whatever he wants to. Andy loves me. We had a great day. We hung out at that Scott Fishbowl draft in Illinois there. I drove over an hour to get there, okay? Over an hour, Andy. So I was just like, man, I walked in, everybody's like, ooh. All right, Scott Frankel. I see that little comment.
Oh my God. Stop talking to my sister this way.
So I walk into this Scott Fishbowl event, and I am like, I'm shaking as I walk in, and I'm like, okay, Andy Behrens. Oh, he's like a star. Like, I see you on my TV, Andy. And I'm just like, so I turn around. This guy's sitting right behind me. Andy freaking Behrens is sitting right behind me. So here I am. I'm like, oh, hey there, Andy. And the rest was history.
Well, of course, I already knew you as Bob Harris's bestie. That's how the entire industry knows you. And Bob won't even give me the time of day. So like you're his best friend. Bob won't acknowledge me publicly.
I could text him anytime I want. Okay, Andy.
So how intimidating are you?
Oh my God. And Andy, Greg had a question too. He said, foreigners, can they be nominated for the FSWA?
Oh, sure. That's not an issue. That we've had finalists. We've had finalists from other countries in the past, certainly. So that's like nominating for the awards isn't really an issue. There might be some places in the world where you can't access the site yourself, and you need somebody here to you need somebody in the US to do it on your behalf. But actually winning awards is not there's no cash prizes here. It's just a matter of me shipping an acrylic trophy somewhere else in the world. So that is definitely in play. Yeah, it's open to all members wherever they are.
My next question is the content should be English or should be in a foreign language?
I will say that we have among our judges, we do have a couple of Spanish speakers. So we can,
Okay.
we can judge, we can't judge content in every language, but we can process content in two.
So being a word language teacher, I'm asking that question. So
Yeah.
that's why. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. So people can know if they can be judged for Spanish at least.
Mhm.
I appreciate it. I think that's what, yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you with Yahoo when we first met? Greg?
Man, I've been at Yahoo for I'm not like ground floor fantasy guy at Yahoo, but I've been there a long time. I've been there since 2007. So I'm pretty confident that I met Greg then or shortly thereafter. So yeah, I've probably been with Yahoo the entire time. But again, like before that, I was freelancing all over the place. And one of my best friends in the industry is probably my best friend in the industry is Chris Harris, who now, he's the guy behind Harris Football. He was then at ESPN. He was briefly at Yahoo. We didn't cross over. But I've known him before, like when the two of us were barely getting on the internet. I got to know Chris because he was editing a site that he was producing just for the heck of it, and I was writing for, and I was just looking for places to write for, that nobody expected to get paid to write online back then, and like I was looking for people to write for, and so I got to know Chris that way, and Chris basically got his start in fantasy because he won I hope I get the details of this right, but like he won the Talented Mr. Roto open pen contest. They used to have a big contest where they were trying to, they'd take your submissions and they'd read the best stuff, and they'd name one person the winner, and then they would hire that guy or woman. And Chris won it 1 year. Chris is an amazing writer. Chris is a fantastic writer. He's written real books. I've written like young adult books. Chris has written books, Chris is great. And he won the contest, but I think the thing that they assigned him to do was like this. It was an NBA feature for like SI.com. And Chris was like, "Oh my God, you have to co-write this with me because I'm not an NBA guy." And I was doing a lot of NBA content at the time. So I sort of, that was my little backdoor into the fantasy industry originally.
So
That's
you
cool.
you do baseball too, you said? You're
Mhm.
big into that fantasy baseball. So do you draft the team at the very beginning? Is it kind of like football? I mean, you don't keep the same players all year?
This is a great question and a loaded question. And I will tell you what I like after years of playing both games, I will tell you what I think the biggest difference is. And I feel like this should ring true with people who play both sports. There are so many different paths to winning a baseball title. Okay. Like so many different paths. It is not, I feel like in football, this is the simplest way I can put it. In football, your team is probably as good as its best player. That's not always true, right? Like you can play in leagues that are exceptionally deep. And I know that probably your audience, they're all playing in 16 team leagues and they got 8 flex spots and it's tight end premium and it's all this stuff. But that's not how normals play, right? Like most fantasy football leagues are, the kind of basic structure that you're going to find at ESPN. Like that's 99% of leagues is like Yahoo basic, ESPN basic leagues. And your team is going to be about as good as its best player. Like at Yahoo this year, if you drafted Christian McCaffrey, you had like a 93 or 94% chance of making the playoffs, and you had something like a 50% chance of winning your league, right? It was crazy. That's how that goes. That is not true in fantasy baseball. In fantasy baseball, I feel like your team is probably going to be, if it's a deep baseball league, your team is probably going to be about as good as its worst player, like the worst player that you have to play regularly. I don't mean you personally as a manager. I mean like, if you have to start a guy in a fantasy baseball league, like every week I'm starting some player who is going to hit 230 and he has only modest power and no speed and he's not driving in any runs. That's such a drain on your lineup. Like you got to be good everywhere and you got to be great at a couple of different places. But it's not as in some ways, fantasy football is so much simpler because if you get 2 or 3 big things right, you're absolutely going to the playoffs and there's a really good chance that you'll win the league. Baseball, like you can another good example of this. I had only a middling fantasy baseball season last year. I don't try to pretend that I'm like, a savant at fantasy baseball by any means, but I'm competitive. I pay attention. I'm pretty good. And I did win Tout Wars last year, and the team that won, my winning team, it didn't have, it's a mixed league. I didn't have Otani. I didn't have any member of the Braves. I didn't have Ronald Acuna. I didn't have like all these things that you would think would be the keys to winning. I didn't have any of them. But that's because there's 1,000 different ways to win a fantasy baseball league. And there's like, I don't know, there's like a half dozen ways to win a fantasy football league, right? Yeah. So like that's the big difference.
Baseball season's so long, and you have to set a lineup every day.
What I would urge you is, like, especially if you're just dabbling in fantasy baseball and you're getting your feet wet in fantasy baseball, join a league with like weekly transactions. Don't jump into a league where you actually have to make ads every day, where you have to make because then you'll find yourself, the other pain is like, oh man, I gotta know who's blowing saves in the West Coast games every night, right? Like that stuff is hard. That is I'm too old to play that way anymore, right? Like I'm not staying up to the end of the West Coast games, man. That's not happening. So like if I'm putting money behind a league, it's probably going to be a weekly transaction league. It's probably going to be something where like I can decide on a Saturday or Sunday who I'm adding for the week instead of having to stay awake until like 1:30 a.m. every night.
Yeah, I hear that. Before we move on to Hope's question, the people want to know, okay, Andy, Cubs or Sox?
It's kind of complicated for me because my favorite ballpark when I was a kid was Comiskey. Like I don't know, I could sing the praises of old Comiskey forever. Just an absolute palace, beautiful place, totally unique. Unlike Wrigley, like had a lot of the charms of Wrigley, but just a beautiful, beautiful place. And I loved those old White Sox teams. My dad and my grandparents were big Cubs fans, and like I never had anything against the Cubs. In my personal opinion, like the Cubs Sox thing is actually a pretty old city neighborhood ethnic conflict that I just don't feel attached to, right? It was like an Irish Southsiders and like German and Italian Northsiders, and I just don't like. I'm not feeling it. Like I don't feel passionately, aggressively, against any Chicago team. So like I go to more Cubs games now, but I'm not mad when the Sox are winning. I think the Sox are fun too. I desperately miss old Comiskey Park, and they haven't been the same. Like they haven't been the same team to me without that ballpark.
Oh yeah, that new field. You go there, if you sit up on top, all the way up there, you better not drink beer because you're gonna miss a step, you're gonna fall to your death.
It's often cold up there. They do have great food. Like the food is great, and the sneaky thing.
The tailgating is really good there, and you can't.
Tailgating is fantastic. And then the sneaky thing about New Sox Park is that your kids are gonna love it, because at some point they were just like, oh man, we're never gonna fill this place, so they just gave up all of left field to kids, and they created a big kids playland, right? And there's
it is pretty cool.
Dudes in Sox uniforms that are hitting you grounders and playing catch with you, and there's like a big cutout of a base runner that you can race against, and like your kids will just get lost for 5 hours in left field, and it's cool. So like that's it's a very kid friendly ballpark. Like it's one of the little known facts about Chicago baseball, I feel, is that if you ask like a 6-year-old which park they would like to go to if they've actually been to both Wrigley and Sox Park, they're going to say Sox Park.
Sox every time. Yeah. I'm a Cubs fan, okay, but I will go to. I'm not like one of the ones like, oh, I hate the White Sox. Maybe some of my close friends and stuff, but I'll go to any baseball game if somebody's giving me tickets. I don't care who's playing.
Yeah. I thought it was the dumbest fight when I was a kid, because both teams, like when I was growing up, both teams had been so bad for so long that and they didn't play. There wasn't, like when I was a little kid, there wasn't even interleague play. So like there was zero chance of those two teams ever facing each other in a meaningful baseball game. So like that is not a rivalry to me. Like whatever, you can yap at each other all you want, but you don't have a rivalry because you ain't ever gonna play.
This is true.
So Hope was asking a question. JC, can you pull out this one? What's your favorite football player presently and why?
I mean, I'm an Iowa guy, right? And so, but plus, I'm an Iowa guy who basically staked his personal fantasy reputation on Sam Laporta's performance this season. I made a lot of promises,
and you nailed it.
Like, man, what a I don't even like to think about how this season would have gone if Sam Laporta had been used primarily as a blocker or just caught 35 passes or something like that. It'd be such a disaster. He was my default answer anytime anybody was like, "Who's your sleeper? Who's your breakout? Who's your rookie?" Whatever. I'd always talk about Sam Laporta. So he was too big to fail for me, and it's a good thing he hit. This is a very long way of saying that actually George Kittle is my favorite football player. Like, in terms of do everything at the position. Somebody who carries himself in just such an engaging way that invites new fans into the game, that, his fans of the Niners obviously rally to Kittle, love Kittle. Just, represents the game exactly as you'd want a professional to represent it. He's a party of a human being, right? He's an absolute riot. And
I want to hang out with him totally. He would be so much fun.
I'll tell you the thing that people don't know. There was a few years ago, during COVID times and everything was on Zoom, but during Super Bowl week, he was, I forget what he was promoting. I think it may have been Gatorade. I'm not sure. I hope I don't get that wrong. But he did a bunch of interviews during the Super Bowl, and I got to interview him, and it was a great experience. I've had a couple of interactions with him. Super friendly guy. But I think the Yahoo production people were really mad at me because we only talked Iowa football. We did not spend a moment talking about the upcoming Super Bowl. We didn't talk about the Niners. We didn't talk about any of the things that I'm sure they wanted clips on. We just talked about Iowa football. I let him do the marketing pitch, and then we just talked.
They didn't fire you. You still work there, right?
And he loved it. He loved it because he's a very loyal Iowa guy. But the thing that people don't know about George Kittle, I would say. And I know that when he really popped in his second season in the NFL, people were like, "I'm sorry, you're going to hear a fire engine outside. I live in the city. What can I do?" When he really popped in his second season, all sorts of folks were like, "Oh man, how did Iowa underutilize him for all that time?" But in fact, Iowa was Kittle's only offer. He came to Iowa as an unrecruited 180-pound wide receiver. Right. And he was just a strength and conditioning success story. Iowa's just a developmental program, and they've nailed the tight end position, and they've nailed offensive line. Right. So kids come out of there at that spot as NFL ready as you can possibly be. Right. And so they built a great tight end, and he had the work ethic, and he had all the other traits that you could possibly want in a professional. And so he's just an incredible success story. He's literally nobody would have seen him coming when he was a high school senior. And he's turned into maybe the best all around tight end in football. And again, he's just a riot of a human being. So I think he's, all things considered, Kittle is probably my favorite current player.
So Sam Laporta needs to up his comedy game or something, right?
He's pretty funny. I don't know. You see him interviewed. He can be pretty funny. He did a great, kind of in the weeds, interview with, Chris Long, that was really, really good. Laporta is really engaging, but Kittle is just another level as a human being, and has an energy level that is very difficult to duplicate organically.
I just want to share something that so I go to a lacrosse high school in New Haven. And a teacher shared with us a couple of days ago that when the Chiefs and Ravens were playing, Travis Jones, he was a Wilbur Cross alumni class of 2018. So he was part of the school that I teach in right now.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
It was cool to see. But poor thing, I mean, the pictures that they sent to the whole school, it was the one that he got hit by the eye. So I'm like, it was the worst picture, guy, to share
that counts.
the whole school. Send something from 2018 instead of this one. But I was so happy. I got to watch that game, and then they were saying that he was part of the school. I was so happy to see that. That was an amazing thing to see.
Well, you're obviously a Chiefs fan too, Carla, so that's even better.
I am. And they went to Gerald, Wendi. So we have it. Right?
I was reluctant to. I was almost reluctant to say Kittle because I have a lot of respect for the Chiefs. I didn't want you to think that I was like some partisan Niners fan. I'm actually a Bears fan. So I don't really have a dog in this fight. I have a healthy respect for both teams. No great rooting interest there.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are an incredible story.
Being Doug's girlfriend, I watch every single game, Andy. Every single game. Everyone. So no, I watch every game and I have respect. And like Doug say, when I watch the games with him, oh, that's my boy. No, that's my boy. So I have a lot of boys in every single team. So I do agree with you.
So Andy, with being a Bears fan, you got any ins? What are they going to do with their quarterback, their draft position? What are they going to do? What's happening?
I will just say, like, purely as a fan, I personally like Justin Fields so much that I don't feel like I have a thing that I think they should do, right? I'll just tell you up front that I think they should draft Caleb Williams and they should roll with Caleb Williams and they should find a trade partner for Justin Fields. And I actually think that's pretty obvious. I also think that most of the people who are like banging the table to keep Fields and do all this other stuff, some percentage of those folks know that that's not the right thing to do. Like if you think that there is a transformational quarterback in this draft, and whatever, maybe it's May, maybe it's Williams, but I'm currently partial to Williams, and I think he can be, I think the ceiling for Williams is pretty incredible. You got to have that guy. You got to have that guy because it is by and large a quarterback's league, and to get that guy.
But we thought Justin Fields was that guy, and he just isn't that guy.
Well, but now that you know that, and now that it's almost time to pay Justin Fields, I think it's pretty clear what you have to do, right? Like because you also get the benefit of a first year potentially all pro quarterback on a rookie deal, right? So I actually think I don't think that should be too controversial. The thing that makes it controversial is that Justin Fields is so likable. And if the team, this is just me as a meathead Bears fan, if the team were to just tell me, hey, we're going to roll with Justin Fields. We want this guy to be our quarterback for the next 5 years, and let's go get it. And we're going to get 2 firsts and 2 seconds for the number 1 pick this year or whatever. And we're going to build from there. We're going to build around Justin Fields. I'd be like, hell yeah, we are. Cause he's awesome. Like I really like him. There's not many human beings in the league right now who are better face of the franchise candidates, in my opinion, than Justin Fields. You're talking about somebody who answers every question flawlessly, takes the heat when there's heat to be taken. He's had plenty of opportunities to throw teammates, others under the bus, and he doesn't do it. Like he's phenomenal. Teammates love him. They've all rallied to him. Every teammate will tell you, they want him on board. Do I think it's the right thing on the field? No, I don't think it's the right thing on the field. But again, as a meathead Bears fan, if you just want me to line up behind Justin Fields, I'm all for it because I think he's really likable. I also think that he has some really rare athletic traits, rare at the position. I don't like, it's pretty much just him and Lamar Jackson as the 2 best rushing quarterbacks in football right now. He's got an extraordinary arm. But the flaws that he had as a rookie, he had this year. I don't think that you can make a very compelling case that there's been, and I blame the coaches 100% for this. I think this is all on the Bears coaching staff. I don't put this on Fields. I think Fields is a tremendously hard worker. Everybody will tell you as much. I think they've hit him with a bunch of terrible game plans over the years and probably some really sketchy advice, and it hasn't helped him. Like he's still, this last year, he was last in the league by a lot in terms of time to throw. That was the situation for him last year. It's always been the problem for Justin Fields. It's, if he'd just played as many games as he played last year, he would have taken close to as many sacks, right? Like that is still an issue. That hasn't gone away. The Bears have just continually done this thing where like they create a huge problem for themselves and they like partially dig their way out in the second half of the season. And then at the end of the year, they declare it progress. Right. But it's not, and so they've kind of been stuck in that mess. And again, I blame the coaches, not Fields. So that's a really long way of saying that very much like him. I agree with Greg. It's coaching. I think Justin Fields can be great somewhere. Absolutely great. The Bears have not fixed the essential issues with Justin Fields, and I don't have a lot of confidence that they will. So I'm in on somebody who I think can have an even higher ceiling than Fields. But again, if the Bears told me it's going to be Fields, I'm like, cool. I love him.
I'm so happy to hear that you actually have a team, because most of the, you're a big time Andy, okay? Most of the big time analysts, they're like, yeah, we don't have a team. We can't be loyal to anybody, but you're a Bears fan. I love
Wendi,
that.
let me tell you something about fantasy baseball. It is sufficiently a grind that like your love for you do, maybe it takes the edge off your love for an individual team, right? Because it's daily and it's so long and it's just such a time commitment to like individual teams that I feel it a little bit more in baseball than I do in football.
Okay.
But there's something about football, and I've always been I haven't covered as much fantasy basketball as I have the other two big sports, but I feel basketball and football at a much more visceral level than I think I do baseball. And so there's no way I could ever break away from the Bears. There's no way I could ever break away from the Bulls, right? Like that feels woven into my life at a level that I just can't escape from. And I wouldn't want to try to pretend that I'm not a big dummy of a fan of the Bears on any random Sunday when they're playing, right? Like it's part of this very basic part of who I am.
Andy, you got to hook up for some Bulls tickets? I'll meet you at a Bulls game. We'll go.
Oh yeah, sure. We've got like a little partial Bulls season plan. I love going to NBA games. I mean, it's such a
there's so much going on at that game. Like there's all that stuff going on. It's a lot of fun. Even if they're not.
I will also tell you, like we have this tiny little Bulls season plan. We've had bigger plans, smaller plans, but we also we buy season tickets to the Sky. And nice. Man, the WNBA is like the greatest value in sports.
We're invited, right?
What we pay, I forget what we pay exactly for like our full season Sky plan, but it's like the cost of a game or two games in comparable seats at an NBA game. It's just absolutely a joke. And like if you like great, like all the dudes who say that what they really like about basketball, all the people who are like, oh, I love college basketball so much more than the NBA, which is a joke of an opinion. But like all those dudes will tell you that they like ball movement and they like shooting and shot creation and fundamentals. Well, man, you're in luck, because that's all there in the WNBA. It is super high quality in the WNBA. They're not a bunch of teenagers. So like that whole developmental stage that you get in the NBA sometimes, right, is gone. Like they are badass ball players, and you're going to see like the highest level of basketball you possibly can. And it's nothing. It's no money, and they're huge stars, huge talents. And so like that's actually the smart ticket if you're a basketball fan. Do
you and your wife go to the games then, to the WNBA games?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's the one Chicago like major sports championship that I've seen like actually won live was when the Sky won a couple of years ago with Candace. That was pretty great.
Very nice.
Yeah. My best memories are with my family sitting and watching, NBA games. I love basketball.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Do you have like a funny story that your family tells about you that you want to share with us?
Oh man, I'm cringing at the first thing that came to mind. And
that's the one we want.
Nervously deciding if I want to tell it. Yes. Yeah, this is so weird. So the year. I'm not sure what the year would have been. Maybe the year is, I'm frighteningly old. I'm very old. I'm not Bob Harris old, but I'm pretty old. So like the year is maybe not all of us. The year here is like 1976, maybe. Maybe it's 75, 76. What I remember is that my dad was a high school basketball coach and a high school teacher when I was growing up. And I remember that like at our little house in the suburbs, he was hosting, in my memory, they were pretty important people in his world, right? Like they were, maybe the department head and the superintendent or the principal or something like that are like coming over to our house for dinner. And I had just been given, I don't remember the circumstances. I don't remember if it was a birthday or whatever, but somebody had just given me a Donnie and Marie plastic guitar, right? Like, so I'm, plastic guitar. I don't know why. I was never a guitar prodigy. I could never play it, but I had this like purple Donnie and Marie plastic guitar. And like, I wanted to, like 4-year-old me wanted to put on like a performance for, there's no way that Bob is younger. Bob isn't younger than any living creature, Greg, stop it. I wanted to like put on a performance for this dinner party. And so like I'd sing, I was a huge fan as a little kid. I was a big fan of the Who, right? So I sing a Who song. I don't know which one, with my Donnie and Marie guitar. And then
I love it.
And then I smashed the plastic guitar on the living room floor because that's what Pete Townsend did. And like I stomped out of the living room, right? Like I gave him the full Who experience with my Donnie and Marie guitar. And
oh my God.
it didn't cost my dad his job or anything, but I'm sure he was mortified.
Did you get grounded, Andy?
I was a little too young to ground. Like I wasn't, what are you doing at 4? I wasn't, I don't think I got in trouble
busting
for it.
guitars in the living room at 4 years old.
But they were mad that I had just destroyed something that they probably paid, $15 in 1975.
We're not that older if you're 4 at that time. So you're not that older. Andy.
Oh, look at what you're doing to Greg, Andy. He's not going to be able to sleep tonight.
That's an awesome story. Talking about Bob, I just want to shout out, congratulations. He just got engaged. I'm so happy for him. I just heard that of his engagement a couple of days ago. So we're so happy for him. So just saying out loud for him.
Those two are really, I know I've given Bob a lot of weird shade tonight, but I love Bob. Everybody loves Bob. And
I know, right?
They're
invited
great.
for the wedding. We're all invited for the wedding, Bob, right? So just saying.
Yeah, he doesn't know it yet, but we're all going to go.
I mean, I'd crash it. Yeah,
Andy's
I would absolutely crash it.
Yeah, Andy, you're really going to be invited. We're not, but you really will be.
You're his bestie, so you're in.
Well,
you're
I know.
in the wedding
I
party.
understand that. Carla could be my
Wendy.
+1. Carla's my +1. So there was something that came up earlier that I wanted to ask about. What is Tout Wars?
Oh, it's one of the big like older like fantasy expert industry leagues, right? It's probably been
Okay.
Man, I think it started in like 97 or 98, something like that. So it's been around for a long time. And it's just, there were in the very beginning, there were 2 big leagues. There was Labor, there was Tout Wars. And now there's some really big fun contests. Justin Mason runs a great one, and there's a bunch of other leagues that are out there now. But Tout Wars is one of the 2 big ones that's been, it's closing in on like 30 years as a pretty major industry league. And so like in the middle of March, we will fly to New York, and there'll be like live drafts that get broadcast on the radio and all that. Yeah, it gets hyped on Sirius quite a bit. So it's just a big industry experts league in baseball.
Oh, hey, that is important. Tootsie Pop has a question for you, Andy. I know the answer, but go ahead.
Like pure fun? No. I will say I've potted with Linda and Troy King and that. Like I've had some other like riotous appearances on podcasts. Nobody ever got that Donnie and Marie guitar story out before.
Breaking news right here on the Game Changers.
I kind of can't believe I told that story. I'm embarrassed by that story.
And it's going to live forever on YouTube. We're going to
as soon as you asked that question too, that's the first thing that came to mind. And then I was like, okay, what's the second worst story? I can tell because there's got to be. I want to keep that in the holster. I find it personally embarrassing. I still get like the little kid, like uptight, cringy. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that thing. When I think about that.
That's amazing.
Well, I can tell you what I'm bringing to the expo this year.
Good luck finding one.
And that's going to be at your karaoke. Do you go to the karaoke thing on Sunday night?
I have not. I'm open to it, but I have not. I have
Well,
not
you're
attended
going now, Andy.
it. What's your go-to karaoke song, both of you?
You know, I do not have that. Nobody wants to hear that. And I have to leave on Sunday morning. I have a concert on Sunday night, so I have to leave. I'm going to see Metallica at Soldier Field.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
Yeah, so it's a Friday and Sunday concert. It's 2 nights, so I had to make a choice. So I gave the set of tickets for Friday to my daughter, and then I'm coming back on Sunday morning. So I won't get to stay for any of the actual expo stuff, which is kind of a bummer because
Yeah.
that's part of the whole weekend. So I'm going to kind of miss that. But yeah, so the expo, we have to talk about that before we go. You're not in a big hurry, right, Andy? You good?
No, yeah.
All right. So the expo, how has that grown from, because you've been going to it the whole time. You probably went to the very first one when they were like in a hotel room or something. I mean, it was pretty small.
Bob has always built the expo around the King's Classic draft, so like the industry league draft that we do there. And the first couple of years, like we were all fully behind the league. The league is super fun. It's like there's like a tier system to it. So everybody who's in the King's Classic is actually playing an auction league and they're playing a regular draft, and there's relegation involved. Like there's like a bunch of different leagues. So it's fun format. It's a very competitive deep league. And then he built the expo around it, right? Like the idea was there's going to be this draft and people will want to, come watch the draft, and we could do some seminars and, a little bit of that. And the first couple of years, Bob is very close with the Hall of Fame. He's a longtime Canton resident, very friendly with the Hall of Fame. So we've done the draft at the Hall of Fame. So like people would come and they would like watch the draft, and we'd get to interact with folks. But that's about all there was to it. And then because Bob is such a tireless worker and he's so organized, like one thing I always feel like in fantasy, you can tell the people who have had a side hustle for a long time and are like really good managers, like in their non-fantasy life, right? And Bob is one of those people. Like Bob is on it. So like Bob is an organizer, and he thinks of everything. And so he's just built a really great event that now hundreds of people are there. It's become like it's like prom for the fantasy industry, right? It's like all the all these wonderful content creators are there. People who are new to the industry are there. People who are veterans in the industry are there, and it's really, I don't know, it just kind of reveals the level of camaraderie that exists in the industry. And it's, I don't know, all industries are a little bit competitive, and I'm sure there's like little wars that exist in fantasy that I may not notice all the time, but like, I don't know, it's a great vibe. It's a good mix of really interested hardcore fantasy players who are there for like information and interaction. And it feels like a couple of hundred, like just people who do what we do, who give advice and create content and just want to share with one another and pick each other's brains and network. And it's just an absolute blast. And because Bob is so well connected in the city of Canton, Ohio, like the venues are incredible. We've weirdly always had great weather for it. It's like it's a wonderful
great weather.
event.
Wait a minute. You and I were walking on Friday night from the park thing to the hotel, and we were soaking wet.
You know very well what like a summer storm can be like in the Midwest, and we've never had like, we've never been hit with like tornadoes. We've never been hit with like 110 degree heat. There's all kinds of nasty stuff that can happen to you.
So I guess it wasn't that bad to get a little wet.
And a little bit of light rain is fine. That's not even, that might bother
more than light rain, but okay.
Anybody coming in from like California might be bothered by that, I guess. But like, I don't know, that didn't really rattle me. That didn't even stick with me. I feel like it's just always been a really, really wonderful event, and I'm proud of Bob for building it.
And Bob was nominated for the FSWA as well. I just saw his tweet today too.
Bob's,
but
it's almost like, it's funny. His consistency guide is like the most consistent finalist that we have in FSWA. Like it is always one of the top football publications. It's great. He's been doing that. Like that's been his niche. That's been his corner for a really long time, and he nails it.
Well, what I think of oh, sorry, Carla.
It's okay. I'm just gonna ask him if he's doing Zumba.
Oh
Are you
yeah,
doing
that's right. Carla is doing a Zumba class, Andy.
Is that going
Are
to be
you?
at the expo? Are we doing
Yes.
expo
Yes,
Zumba?
it's something new
Oh
at the
wow,
expo, Andy.
And it's
wow.
probably going to be really early in the morning. So are you going to be up for going, Andy? Come
No,
on.
not early. It's gonna be in the
All right,
afternoon.
I'm
We're
going to give
doing
you.
good with that.
I'm going to give you the list of names, and if you get these people, I would do it. Let's see. We need Troy King. Um,
I know
we
him.
we need Bob Harris.
Oh,
Oh, he's
that's a
there.
gimme.
He's there. He's
we
Wendy's bestie.
need
Come on.
we need Denny Carter, and we need Howard Bender. You get those 4 people.
Well,
We
Howard
already
is there.
talked to Howard. We already talked to Howard. So you're saying if we get
Greg
those
will
4
watch.
people, that you're going to come to Zumba.
You need to be
It's
there.
written. It's
That's
here.
the
It's written.
that's the price of admission for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I was going to say was, as with the expo, I was terrified to go to that expo. But the year before, I'm looking at all the pictures. I'm like, damn, I got to go to that expo. That looks like a lot of fun. So I did go, and I was literally shaking as I walked into that place. Like, I was so nervous. But immediately, first person I saw yelled my name as I'm walking into Doubletree, and it was Howard Bender. And I'm like, first of all, oh my God, Howard Bender knows my name? What? Are you kidding me? He was standing outside, and I'm like, I immediately felt welcome, and that was the thing.
Yeah.
All of you guys are so accessible. Because like I said, Andy, you're pretty big, so it's like, but you know what? You talk to everybody. I've got pictures with you, and everyone's like that. Everyone's so nice there.
Yeah, there's not really a lot of full of themselves folks in the fantasy industry, right? And like,
no, they don't come to the expo, the ones that are full of themselves.
Well, anybody who's done it as long as I have, like, this is the thing, and Greg can attest to this. Like, anybody who's like a veteran fantasy analyst has been in the industry at a time when like none of us got any respect from our employer, right? Like, fantasy was like this tiny little niche thing, and I guess we got to do it because it's super popular and a lot of people are signing up, and but nobody really know how to weave it into a content plan for like an actual sports site. And then over the years, it's obviously become like a well-respected, the content is great. And, you're talking about people, like, thinking about the people who've kind of gotten into it, like around the time that I did. Think of Mike Clay, but Brandon Funston was doing it. Brad Evans was doing it. Chris Harris. Like, it's just great content. It's just great analysis without respect to whether it's fantasy or non-fantasy. So like, we all, but that's a way of saying that the people who like came up in this, the people who came up in this industry like 20 years ago were not like, you were not a big star on your platform, whatever your platform was. Right. So like, it was humbling to sort of come up in the industry. And the whole story of the fantasy industry has sort of been like the last generation helping this generation, and I don't know, it's pretty natural thing. And we all get to the expo and everybody is fundamentally the same nerd, so it's pretty easy once you've got a drink in your hand, and once Nate Markham's wife is wrapping her arms around you and asking you the dumbest question that you've ever heard, like we all have scary stories. Yeah, like. Yeah, I mean, as Greg says, like, nobody should be scared to talk to anyone at the expo at all.
Because Rachel just said she was scared to come and talk to you, and there's no reason for that. I mean, it's great. Like, everyone is so accessible there.
I agree. I have one more question before we go to the ending, Wendy. If you wake up one day, Andy, with the ability to time travel, where do you go, and what would you do first?
I mean, it's going to be a lot of investment decisions, right?
Apple.
Yeah, we're buying a lot of the right stocks at the right time. We're scooping up Amazon and Apple at the right time, and I'm coming back to the present day, a trillionaire who doesn't have to do this stuff anymore.
Great fantasy football content.
I don't want to like accidentally influence anything other than my own bankroll. So I don't want it to get too messy. actually, like, I don't know. I've had pretty happy with. I've had a wonderful life in the industry, and personally. And I'd probably go back and watch a few snapshots of my own past. Like maybe I'd view that guitar smashing event one more time. I'd peek in the window there. But I don't think there's anything too dramatic that I would try to change, because unintended consequences and all that. But I would risk it for $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Nice.
This has just been so great. We want to thank all the viewers for being so loyal to the show and spending this hour with us. Andy, can you remind, just in case, because you're so big, but just in case somebody doesn't know where to find you, Andy Behrens, where are they going to go?
They can find me on Yahoo Fantasy, on Yahoo Sports. I am on X at Andy Behrens. I am, if you got a big raffle coming up, I'm probably in it, probably going to win it.
You're the raffle king. It even says it on your name there.
I'm as good as it gets in the raffle game. Yep.
Well, thank you again to the Sports Affiliation for giving us this platform to speak our truth and to be real in everything that we offer and do here. We want to tune in. First of all, before we go, thank you, JC. JC does so much for us.
Yeah.
He takes care of all of this behind the scenes stuff and makes us look good. So, I don't know if we look good, but he does something back there. So thank you for that. We do want to tell everyone to tune in next episode, which will be next Tuesday, and we are going to have Gina Noble. She is a kick-ass woman in this industry, and she's so nervous about coming on. I'm telling you, you guys do not want to miss this, because Gina's freaking excellent. She's great. So we'd like to say, again, thank you, Andy, for coming. I don't know how I got this terrible reputation. Did you guys read everything in the chat? They were just throwing me under the bus over there.
Everyone is so freaking out of you, Wendi. I don't know what's going on.
Man, oh man,
I feel like when I admitted that you were my biggest fear, I feel like there was just a great exhale among the audience, and they were like, "Oh, somebody finally said it."
My whole family would probably be chiming in right now too. I don't know. But anyways, good night, everyone. We will see you next week. Please tune in next Tuesday. Don't forget to like and subscribe so they'll keep coming back every week, everyone. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.